If you've ever found yourself scrambling to keep a database from melting under unexpected load, you know how crucial a solid, hassle-free backend can be. And with so many cloud database services on the market right now, it's tough to pinpoint which one will actually keep your app agile. Let's break down how TiDB Serverless measures up against Amazon RDS and see which approach might fit your needs best. Let's first start up with Amazon RDS. Now, while definitely a step up from running your own MySQL on your own machine, it isn't fully serverless. So if you still need to pick up an instance size, and if you undershoot, you'll be doing some manual resizing and restarting the instance, which means downtime, which is not necessarily good, right? But if you overshoot, you pay for more horsepower that you don't even use. So while you can add read replicas to handle extra read traffic, and every write still flows through a single primary node, which can become a bottleneck under heavy concurrency, unlike TiDB, RDS doesn't scale down to 0, so you might end up paying for a big instance even if your workload is sporadic. Now, TiDB Serverless. When it comes to scaling, TiDB Serverless is built to be as hands-off as possible. And I mean, you can start with minimal resources, letting the system autonomously ramp up capacity whenever traffic spikes or analytic workloads grow heavier. And because TiDB's distributed design scales both reads and writes, there's no single node acting as a bottleneck, which means everything expands or shrinks according to real-time demand. And better yet, TiDB's ability to handle distributed transactions at scale isn't automatically implied by all distributed databases. So you're covered if your app needs ACID guarantees across multiple nodes, and if your app goes quiet, the cluster scales right back down, saving you from paying for unused capacity. Now, I think it's good to also note that although TiDB's architecture supports multi-region replication and high availability, in serverless mode, you do pick a single region when creating your cluster. So if you need a fully global multi-region deployment, you may explore TiDB dedicated instead. Let's first start with Amazon RDS's reliability. Now, Amazon RDS does have reliability features, but they tend to involve manual setup or additional fees. You can enable multi-AZ deployments or read replicas, which provide some level of failover, but you'll typically pay extra for them. And keep in mind that multi-AZ effectively duplicates your database infrastructure. So you're running a parallel standby instance for high availability. Failover isn't always instant as well, and there may be a brief window where your app can't write data. So if you need a global footprint, you're often looking at more complex solutions like Aurora Global Database, which adds even more costs, or a patchwork of cross-region replicas. And although it can match certain reliability targets, RDS can be a bit more hands-on and might not be as turnkey for globally distributed apps. Let's talk about reliability on TiDB Serverless. Now, if your database sputters, your app might as well be off on a holiday, except no one's having fun. TiDB Serverless is built on a distributed cloud native foundation, which means redundancy and failover are part of the design. Multi-region support is also baked right in, and if one region falters, guess what? The system automatically handles failover without manual scripts, because TiDB uses MVCC, aka multi-version concurrency control, across its nodes. It also maintains strong ACID guarantees even when dealing with high concurrency, and it also supports online DDL at the core of its architecture. So you don't need to lock tables when changing your schema. And I think this is a big deal for production environments that need continuous uptime. Now, let's talk about developer-friendly issues between the two, starting with Amazon RDS. Now, Amazon RDS focuses on giving you managed MySQL or other popular engines with minimal sysadmin chores. And if you're already rooted in the AWS ecosystem, I think you'll appreciate the integrations with services like IAM and CloudWatch. However, RDS doesn't provide advanced AI or vector search capabilities out of the box. And I think you'll likely have to combine it with additional AWS offerings or third-party offerings, services, if you want more futuristic features like semantic search or online analytics. Also, while RDS simplifies routine tasks like backups, it's not as flexible with schema changes. I think certain modifications can still require downtime or carefully orchestrated zero downtime process. Now let's talk about TiDB Serverless developer-friendly features. Now, day-to-day developer experience matters, and TiDB Serverless brings several modern features to the table. It includes built-in AI capabilities such as vector search for semantic queries or recommendation systems, and an AI-assisted SQL editor that actually helps you generate or optimize queries without actually manually fussing over indexes. And the database branching features are also a game changer, letting you spin off an isolated copy of your database for testing or new feature development and merge changes back in later, just like what you do with Git. Now, since TiDB is also fully open source, boasting tens of thousands of GitHub stars, you can dig deeper or self-host if you ever need that option as well. Now, what sets TiDB Serverless apart? TiDB Serverless stands out by being born as a distributed SQL engine, rather than a single node database wearing a serverless hat, right? Its core architecture natively supports horizontal scaling for both reads and writes, which ensures high concurrency. And if you have real-time analytics needs, TiDB can actually pair with TiFlash for HTAP, aka hybrid transactional analytical processing, so you can actually handle transactional workloads and analytical queries in one place. It also offers true scale to zero behavior, which can be a major money saver for apps with unpredictable workloads. And again, online DDL is integral to TiDB, so you can change schemas on the fly without downtime, making it production friendly for fast-moving teams. Now let's talk about pricing. So Amazon RDS relies on provision capacity. You pick an instance type along with storage, IOPS, and region, and then they pay a set hourly rate, whether you fully use those resources or not. And you may end up overpaying if you provision extra capacity to handle sporadic traffic surges. And then multi-AZ deployments effectively double your infrastructure costs since you're running a standby instance for high availability. Read replicas, cross-region replication, and Aurora Global Database each add further costs as well. And if you have relatively stable workloads and prefer predictive monthly bills, I think RDS might suit you just fine, but it's less flexible for those with variable demands. And then TiDB. TiDB Serverless uses a pure SQL level pay-as-you-go model, charging for actual resource usage rather than a fixed hourly rate. I really think this flexible approach benefits spiky or unpredictable workloads, helping reduce costs by up to 80% compared to traditional provision capacity models. And developers can also track per query costs in the console, ensuring full cost transparency. Additionally, TiDB scales down to 0 during idle periods, so you're not billed unnecessarily. And with a generous free tier, it's so easy to experiment with no upfront costs, no credit cards, making it ideal for both startups and I think seasoned teams looking to optimize costs. So here are my final thoughts. Both TiDB Serverless and Amazon RDS have their place in the cloud database space. RDS can feel comfortable if you live and breathe AWS and just want a stable, well-trodden path to MySQL or Postgres without hosting them yourself. However, TiDB Serverless puts a premium on global scalability, high concurrency, distributed failover, built-in AI features, and a pay-as-you-go model that can significantly slash costs if your traffic is spiky or minimal at times. And not to mention, it's also fully open source and HTAP ready, making a compelling fit for modern data-intensive or AI-driven applications. At the end of the day, we're in an era where databases can do much more than store rows and columns. With TiDB Serverless, you get a database that's ready for the modern era, distributed, AI-friendly, and capable of scaling to 0 when your traffic disappears. Amazon RDS remains a reliable choice if you want the simplicity of a managed MySQL engine under the familiar umbrella of AWS. Now, if you're curious about TiDB's real-time usage, billing, online DDL, or AI features, you can always check out the free tier, spin up an instance, and see for yourself how it handles your own workloads. After all, your database shouldn't just keep pace, it should help lead the way. I hope you like this video. I'll see y'all in the next one. Peace.